A man suspected in the shooting death of his ex-girlfriend is in custody tonight. Clinton police, with help from U.S. Marshals, arrested Carlton Mack in Bolton. He's charged with murder and possession of a weapon by a felon in the shooting death of 45-year-old Jasmine Singleton Monday. Singleton was found dead on the kitchen floor at a home in the 900 block of Cedar Hill Drive. Witnesses said they heard gunshots and saw a gold Chevy Tahoe leaving the scene. Police say surveillance video confirmed that vehicle was owned by Mack. The Clinton Police Department continues to investigate this case.
October 20th, 2025, 11 p.m. A quiet residential street in Clinton, Mississippi. Gunshots pierced the silence. Neighbors scramble for their phones. A gold Chevrolet Tahoe speeds away into the darkness. Inside 900 Cedar Hill Drive, on a kitchen floor, lies 45-year-old Jasmine Singleton, a devoted mother and nurse, bleeding from multiple gunshot wounds. She had done everything right. She had spoken up. She had ended the relationship. She had tried to protect her 3 children, but for Jasmine, speaking up wasn't enough. This is the story of a woman who saw the red flags, who made the brave choice to walk away, and how the man who claimed to love her made sure that if he couldn't have her, no one would. Welcome back to Roped Crimes, where we uncover the truth behind real criminal cases that shake communities to their core. If you're returning, thank you for being here. And if you're new, welcome. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Share this video because awareness saves lives. Jasmine Singleton was 45 years old. She was a registered nurse working in Clinton, Mississippi, a woman who dedicated her life to caring for others. But more than her profession, Jasmine was a mother. She had 3 children who were her world, her reason for getting up every morning, her motivation for every decision she made. To her younger sister, Deandra, Jasmine was more than just family. She was her oldest sister, her only sister. They shared a special bond that only siblings understand. They sang together. Jasmine was a background singer for Deandra, and they loved karaoke nights where their voices would blend in harmony. Those memories, those moments of joy and laughter, are what Deandra holds on to now. Christine Cody, a makeup artist who had known Jasmine since high school, described her as sweet, happy, loving, and gentle. She said Jasmine had a bright spirit, the kind of person who lit up a room when she walked in, the kind of person you wanted to be around because her energy was contagious. When you do someone's makeup, you're inches from their face, looking into their eyes, seeing them in their most vulnerable moments. Christine saw Jasmine. She knew her heart. In Clinton, Jasmine was known. She was a community member, a familiar face, someone people trusted with their health and their lives. She wasn't just a statistic or a name in a news article. She was real, she was vibrant, she was building a life for herself and her children, trying to create stability and safety in a world that, as we'll see, had other plans. But behind this bright exterior, behind the smile and the songs and the nursing scrubs, there was a dark shadow that Jasmine was desperately trying to escape. A shadow that had a name: Carlton D. Mack. Carlton D. Mack was 42 years old, from Jackson, Mississippi. And he had a history, not just any history, documented pattern of violence, multiple prior arrests for domestic violence. This wasn't a man who lost his temper once. This was a man with a record, a trail of red flags that screamed danger to anyone paying attention. Jasmine's sister Deandra didn't mince words when she described him. She called Mack a violent person. That's not speculation. That's not exaggeration. That's a sister who watched her siblings struggle in a relationship with someone who terrorized her. Deandra saw what was happening, and what she saw was a man consumed by jealousy and control. The relationship between Jasmine and Carlton was built on a toxic foundation. Mack operated with what Deandra described as a till death do us part mentality, but not in the romantic sense you hear at weddings. This was obsessive possessiveness. This was a man who believed that if he couldn't have Jasmine, then no one could. He didn't love her. He owned her. Or at least, that's what he thought. But Jasmine was stronger than he gave her credit for. Months before her death, Jasmine made a decision that would take immense courage. She ended the relationship. She walked away. And her reason was crystal clear. She needed to protect her 3 children. She saw the violence. She recognized the danger. She knew that staying meant putting herself and her kids at risk. So she left. Think about that for a moment. Jasmine did exactly what we tell victims of domestic violence to do. She spoke up. She told people what was happening. She removed herself from the situation. She chose her children over a dangerous man. She did everything right. But here's the heartbreaking reality that Diandra would later express. She spoke up, but it wasn't enough. Those words carry the weight of a truth that too many families know. Speaking up should be enough. Leaving should be enough. Getting away should mean getting safe. But for victims of domestic violence, leaving is often the most dangerous time. It's when the abuser realizes they're losing control. It's when obsession turns to rage. It's when "if I can't have you, no one will" stops being a threat and becomes a plan. Jasmine was caught in an impossible position that millions of abuse victims face every single day. Stay and risk being hurt or killed. Leave and risk being hunted down and killed. There is no safe option when you're dealing with someone who sees you as property, not a person. Someone who has already shown through multiple arrests that violence is their answer to conflict. Carlton Mack couldn't accept that it was over. He couldn't handle the fact that Jasmine had chosen herself and her children over him. And as the weeks and months went by after their breakup, that rejection festered. It grew. It became something dark and deadly. Jasmine had moved on with her life, trying to build something better for herself and her kids. But Mack, he was planning something else entirely. October 20th, 2025. It was a Sunday night in Clinton, Mississippi. For most people on Cedar Hill Drive, it was winding down like any other evening. Families were settling in, lights were dimming, the neighborhood was quiet, peaceful, safe. And then shortly after 11 p.m, that peace shattered. Gunfire. Not one shot, multiple shots. The sound echoed through the residential street, jolting neighbors from their routines. People grabbed their phones. Some hit the floor, others ran to their windows. The 911 calls started flooding in immediately. Shots fired. Cedar Hill Drive, 900 block, send help now. Witnesses would later tell police what they saw in those frantic moments. A gold Chevrolet Tahoe speeding away from the scene. The vehicle tore through the neighborhood at high speed, fleeing into the darkness. Several people saw it. Several people would remember it. That gold SUV became the first critical piece of evidence in what was about to unfold. The Clinton Police Department responded immediately. Officers arrived at 900 Cedar Hill Drive within minutes, their lights cutting through the night. They approached Jasmine's home, not knowing what they would find, but preparing for the worst. And when they entered, the worst is exactly what they found. The kitchen. The heart of any home, where families gather for meals. Where children do homework at the table, where life happens. That's where Jasmine Singleton lay on the floor. She was 45 years old. She was a mother, she was a nurse, she was a sister and a friend. And now, she was gone. Multiple gunshot wounds. The brutality of it was undeniable. This wasn't a crime of passion in the moment. This wasn't an accident. This was execution. Someone had come to that house with one purpose: to take Jasmine's life, and they had succeeded. The officers secured the scene. They called for investigators. The clock was ticking now. Whoever did this had fled in that gold Tahoe, and every second that passed gave them more distance, more time to disappear. But the Clinton police weren't starting from zero. Those witnesses who'd seen the SUV, they'd given descriptions. And in today's world, neighborhoods have cameras, surveillance footage. Investigators pulled the surveillance video from the area, and there it was, just as the witnesses had described. A gold Chevrolet Tahoe captured on camera, fleeing the scene right after the gunshots. The timestamp matched, the vehicle matched. Now they just needed to know who it belonged to. They ran the plates, and when the results came back, the picture became instantly clear. The vehicle was registered to Carlton Mack, 42 years old, from Jackson, Mississippi, and most importantly, Jasmine Singleton's ex-boyfriend. The man with multiple prior arrests for domestic violence, the man who couldn't let go, the man who, according to Jasmine's sister, believed in "till death do us part." Suddenly, all the pieces were falling into place. The relationship history, the pattern of violence, the breakup, the obsession, and now Jasmine dead in her kitchen and Mack's vehicle fleeing the scene. This wasn't a mystery. This was a tragedy that had been building for months. But Carlton Mack wasn't at home. He wasn't waiting to be arrested. He had run. And now, with Jasmine's body still warm and her children about to wake up to the worst news of their lives, a manhunt was beginning. The gold Tahoe was found later that same night in Jackson, Mississippi, abandoned. Mack had dumped it and disappeared. The vehicle was immediately recovered by Clinton police and secured for forensic examination. Whatever evidence was inside that SUV, fingerprints, DNA, gunshot residue, shell casings, it would all be processed. But first they had to find the man who'd been driving it. Clinton police issued an alert. Carlton D. Mack was wanted for the murder of Jasmine Singleton. He was considered armed and extremely dangerous. The public was warned, do not approach this man. If you see him, call 911 immediately. His face was everywhere, news stations, social media, police bulletins. His history was laid bare, multiple prior domestic violence arrests. This was a man who had hurt people before. This was a man who had just killed. The community was on edge. Jasmine's family was in agony. Her 3 children were now motherless. And somewhere out there, Carlton Mack was on the run, knowing exactly what he'd done and trying desperately to avoid answering for it. But Carlton Mack couldn't run forever. He had less than 48 hours of freedom left. By October 22nd, 2025, just 2 days after Jasmine's murder, the net was closing in. The Clinton Police Department wasn't handling this alone anymore. When you're dealing with a murder suspect who's fled, who's considered armed and dangerous, who has a history of violence, you bring in the big guns. And that's exactly what happened. The United States Marshals Service joined the manhunt. The US Marshals are experts at finding people who don't want to be found. They track fugitives across state lines, through back roads, into hiding spots that most people don't even know exist. And they were now focused entirely on finding Carlton D. Mack. He didn't get far. On October 22nd, US Marshals located Mack in Bolton, Mississippi. Bolton is a small town, roughly 15 to 20 miles from Clinton. He'd stayed relatively close, perhaps thinking he could lay low, perhaps running out of options. Whatever his plan was, it didn't matter anymore. The marshals moved in and Carlton D. Mack was taken into custody without incident. The man who had allegedly executed Jasmine Singleton in her own kitchen was now in handcuffs. The man who had fled into the night was now sitting in a cell. Justice hadn't been served yet, but at least he was off the streets. The charges came quickly. Murder, that was the big one, the charge that would define the rest of Carlton Mack's life. But there was another charge, one that revealed even more about who this man really was. Possession of a weapon by a convicted felon. Think about what that means. This wasn't just a man with domestic violence arrests on his record. This was a convicted felon. Someone who had already been through the criminal justice system. Someone who, by law, was not allowed to possess a firearm. And yet, he had one. And he'd used it to take Jasmine's life. The evidence against Mack was overwhelming. Surveillance video showed his gold Tahoe fleeing the scene right after the gunshots. Witnesses had seen it. The vehicle was registered in his name. He was Jasmine's ex-boyfriend with a documented history of violence against her. He had fled immediately after the murder and abandoned his vehicle. Every single piece of the puzzle pointed directly at Carlton D. Mack. The coordination between the Clinton Police Department and the US Marshals Service had been swift and effective. From the moment Jasmine was found dead on October 20th to Mack's arrest on October 22nd, it took less than 2 full days to get this dangerous man off the streets. That's the kind of response you want to see when someone's life has been taken. That's law enforcement doing exactly what they're supposed to do. But as Mack sat in custody, awaiting trial, the real weight of what he'd done was only beginning to settle. Jasmine Singleton was gone, and the people who loved her were left to pick up the pieces of a life that had been violently, senselessly shattered. Diandra Singleton lost her only sister, her oldest sister, the woman she sang karaoke with, the woman whose voice harmonized with hers, the woman who was supposed to be there for birthdays and holidays and all the moments that sisters share. And in her grief, Diandra had questions. Questions directed at the man who took Jasmine away. Why did you do that to my sister, my only sister, my oldest sister? It's the kind of question that has no good answer, no answer that could ever make sense, no answer that could ever ease the pain or bring Jasmine back. But it's a question that needed to be asked. that needed to be screamed into the void left by Jasmine's absence. Deandra didn't hold back when she described Carlton Mack and what he'd done. She called him what he was, a coward. He was jealous, he didn't want to let her go, so instead of being a man, he was a coward, and he took her away from us. Those words carry the rage and heartbreak of someone who watched their sister try to escape, who watched their sister do everything right, and who still had to bury her. Because that's what makes this so painful, so infuriating, so impossibly tragic. Jasmine had spoken up. She had told people what was happening. She had recognized the danger she was in. She had left the relationship. She walked away from Carlton Mack to protect herself and her 3 children. She did exactly what we tell victims of domestic violence to do. She was brave, she was strong, she made the right choice, but it wasn't enough. The system, the circumstances, the brutal reality of domestic violence, none of it was enough to save her. Deandra's words echo with that devastating truth. She spoke up, but it wasn't enough. Christine Cody, the makeup artist who had known Jasmine since high school, lost a friend she'd known for decades. There's an intimacy in doing someone's makeup. You have their face in your hands, you're inches away, looking into their eyes, seeing them without filters or walls. Christine knew Jasmine. She saw the sweet, happy, loving, gentle person with a bright spirit. And now that spirit was gone, snuffed out by violence that should never have reached her. But perhaps the most heartbreaking victims in all of this are Jasmine's 3 children. 3 kids who woke up one morning to discover that their mother, the woman who protected them, who left a dangerous relationship specifically to keep them safe, was never coming home. 3 children who will grow up without her at their graduations, like their weddings, the births of their own children. 3 lives forever altered by one man's refusal to let go. The ripple effect of violence like this is immeasurable. It's not just Jasmine who was taken that night, it's every future moment she would have shared with her children. Every hug, every I love you, every piece of advice, every celebration, every ordinary Tuesday afternoon, all of it gone. In Clinton, Mississippi, the community mourned. They mourned a neighbor, a nurse, a woman who had cared for their health and their loved ones. They mourned another name added to the growing list of domestic violence victims. They mourned another preventable death. Another woman who did everything right and still ended up on a kitchen floor, bleeding out from multiple gunshot wounds, while her murderer fled into the night. Jasmine Singleton became a statistic that night. But she was never just a number. She was a real person with a real life, real dreams, like real people who loved her. And she deserved so much better than what Carlton Mack gave her. And here's the thing that makes Jasmine's story even more tragic. She's not alone. Every day in America, 3 women are murdered by their intimate partners. Every day. That's not an exaggeration. That's not hyperbole. That's statistical fact. Domestic violence is an epidemic, and it's killing women at an alarming rate. Studies have shown that leaving an abusive relationship is actually the most dangerous time for a victim. When an abuser realizes they're losing control, when they understand that their victim is truly walking away, that's when the violence often escalates. That's when threats become actions. That's when "I'll kill you if you leave" stops being just words. Jasmine's case is a textbook example of this deadly pattern. Carlton Mack showed every red flag you could possibly imagine. Multiple prior arrests for domestic violence, not one arrest, multiple. That's a pattern, that's a history. That's a man who had been violent before and would be violent again. The warning signs were flashing bright red, and yet, somehow, it still wasn't enough to save Jasmine. Jealousy, possessiveness, the refusal to accept the end of a relationship. Deandra described Mack's "till death do us part" mentality, the obsessive belief that Jasmine belonged to him, that she didn't have the right to leave, that their relationship wasn't over until he said it was over. This kind of thinking is dangerous. It's a red flag that screams, this person is a threat, a history of violence. Carlton Mack had already proven he was capable of hurting people. He had a criminal record. He was a convicted felon who wasn't legally allowed to possess firearms, and yet he had one anyway. Every single piece of his past pointed to the same conclusion. This man was dangerous. Jasmine's sister Deandra said something after her sister's death that everyone needs to hear. Everyone has to speak up. When you see these red flags, you have to speak up. She's right. We can't keep being silent. We can't keep looking the other way when we see warning signs in our friends' relationships, our family members' relationships, our co-workers' relationships. Speaking up might be uncomfortable, might create tension, it might make you feel like you're overstepping. But you know what's worse? Planning a funeral. If you see someone being controlled by their partner, speak up. If you see someone whose partner is obsessively jealous, won't let them have friends, checks their phone constantly, isolates them from family, speak up. If you see bruises, hear excuses, notice someone becoming a shell of who they used to be, speak up. And if someone tells you they're afraid of their partner, believe them. Take it seriously. Help them find resources. Help them make a safety plan. Help them get out. Because Jasmine did speak up. She told people what was happening. She left. And it still wasn't enough. But maybe if more people around Carlton Mack had spoken up years earlier, if his pattern of violence had been taken more seriously, if he'd been stopped before it got to this point, maybe Jasmine would still be here. Jasmine Singleton was 45 years old. She was a registered nurse who dedicated her life to healing others. She was a mother to 3 children who needed her. She was a sister who sang karaoke and shared laughter. She was a friend with a bright, gentle spirit. She was a woman who recognized danger, who spoke up, who made the brave decision to leave an abusive relationship to protect herself and her children. And on October 20th, 2025, Carlton D. Mack took all of that away. As of now, Mack remains in custody, awaiting trial for murder and possession of a weapon by a convicted felon. The legal process will unfold. Evidence will be presented. A jury will make a decision. But no verdict, no sentence, no amount of justice can bring Jasmine back. Her children will still grow up without their mother. Diandra will still have an empty space where her only sister used to be. Christine will still have lost a friend she'd known since high school. The hole that Jasmine's death left in this world cannot be filled. But her story can serve a purpose. It can be a reminder, a warning, a wake-up call. Domestic violence doesn't discriminate. It happens in every community, every economic class, every race, every religion. It can happen to anyone. And if you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, please understand this. You are not alone, and there is help available. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. That number is staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, by trained advocates who can help you create a safety plan, find resources, and figure out your next steps. If you see the warning signs in someone else's relationship, the jealousy, the control, the isolation, the history of violence, don't stay silent. Speak up, offer support, be a lifeline. You might save a life. And to everyone watching this, I want you to remember Jasmine, not just as a victim, not just as a statistic, but as a person who mattered, a person who deserved to live, a person who did everything right and still lost her life because one man couldn't accept that she had the right to walk away. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and please, if you see something, say something. Jasmine's voice was silenced on October 20th, but ours don't have to be. We can speak up. We can break the silence. We can be the difference. This is Rope Crimes. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next case.